Well, actually, right now I'm working on a solo vibraphone album, which I've always wanted to do. Just me playing the vibraphone. Some of the standards that I learned through the years, the old standards. So that's probably a very quick answer, but I think it's what I'm working on and what I'm really looking forward to releasing and leaving as sort of a legacy, yeah, and also sort of a historical piece in terms of how I approach the instrument. Well, I've done quite a few of these projects over the years, and it's really refreshing to get out of the school sort of environment and into rehearsal for a week, and then the actual performance for a live audience, which doesn't really take place in a lot of situations. So, it's thrilling not only for the musicians who are the professionals, but for the young musicians that have been involved in the project. They can see the evolution over a period of week and how you learn from each other too. And it's always, I think it's something that you should be proud of, that you've been doing all these years, and I wish there were more of it throughout the world. It's a great experience for everyone concerned on all levels. Oh, it's an interesting question. The advice. I'll have to ponder that for a minute. Well, I came from a very, very different background. It was in the 1940s when I really started playing music. So, and I was living in pretty much like a ghetto in the Bronx. So the only advice that I received was from my parents and people in my family who loved jazz and listened to jazz. And we listened to jazz on the radio, which was popular on the radio in the 40s. So I got some advice from my teacher. But now it's a completely different world with technology and all the fantastic conservatories and the interaction amongst musicians, something like what's happening this week here. That was impossible for me, and I wish it were. I wish I had that opportunity to play with musicians of this caliber and also to interact with them on so many different levels, not only musically, just asking them for advice and hearing their stories. So it is important to be, in a milieu like this, and I didn't have that opportunity until I was older. Like when I was a teenager, I started playing with my jazz trio on television when I was 14 years old, and that's when I started, being around older musicians, and I started playing professionally at a very young age as a teenager, and then it wasn't until I was in maybe I was 20 years old when I joined the Buddy Rich band, a small group, and we toured all over the world. When even my eyes opened, not only, and ears opened to all kinds of different kinds of music, because I had the opportunity to play at Birdland opposite Miles Davis or Art Blakey and groups like that. And then we traveled on a State Department tour that took us to Afghanistan, to India, to Vietnam, Laos, and I heard, it was like 10 countries, or maybe more. I got a chance to hear indigenous music, music from all over the world. So that opened up my head, too. It's not advice so much. It's exposure. Like today, when with all that, the technology that young players have at hand, they can listen to Indian musicians. They can listen to music from all over the world. They can experience it firsthand, and then secondhand, and then firsthand when they go to the conservatories. They're learning all those rhythms. They're learning how to play tablas. They're learning African rhythms and hand percussion. Like at Berkeley, I think a lot of young students have to take hand percussion in a lot of conservatories. So I wasn't exposed to that until I was in my 20s. And now, like your daughters and your sons, they're exposed to like all this music. You can just play it for them. Yeah, I didn't have a phonograph until I was like 14 or 15 years old when we got a phone. Didn't have a phone either. I was just listening to big band music, which was on the radio. I'll tell you one thing, it was more focused too. And also, I was fortunate, I should also mention that my father would take me to Broadway. We had Broadway shows, and almost every large theater had a big band, a show. 2 movies and a stage show. And it might be Ellington's band, or the Dorsey band, or Frank Sinatra. So you did get a chance to hear, if you were interested in that music, which was pop music in the 40s. So there was a certain innocence and naivete, as far as I'm concerned, but it also sort of really focused me as to the music that I was hearing and learning. And sometimes I think students get a little unfocused because they have to learn so many decades of music, They have to cram everything from Louis Armstrong all the way up to what we're playing now within 4 years or 5 years of college. And they get sometimes they come out and they're a little confused as to direction. I knew right away, like, this is what I heard, this is what I'm playing.